By listening to this podcast, you're already taking steps on the path of improving your business readiness. Nice work. Got a question? Well, we'd love to hear from you. Submit your questions at masterypartners.com and look for the red Business Owner Hotline button. And as you think about today's episode, remember, the decisions you make every day as a business owner are either building value in your company or quietly eroding it. So here's a question to take with you. What decision will you make tomorrow that builds value in your business? Now go get it done. At Mastery Partners, we're the people that make companies more valuable and more transferable. Our guides help business owners build companies that's ready for whatever comes next. And if you want to see where your business stands, visit masterypartners.com to learn more about the Transition Readiness Assessment. So until next time, keep maximizing business value.
Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast. I'm Kim Benson, your resident business owner, operator, and honestly, right there beside you, figuring this all out, how to run a business. Not just run a business, run a great business that I can sell one day. Today's topic is one I think most of us assume we've handled. We've got people, we've got roles, we know who does what mostly. But here's what I've learned the hard way. What's in your head doesn't scale. If your org chart lives there, hasn't been updated since you hired your third employee, today's conversation is one you're going to want to listen to, because the scalable org chart isn't about people. It's about functions, accountability, and how decisions are made, how they flow. And that realization changed how I think about structure entirely. And here to help us work through it are Gil Bean and Scott Couchenour. They are certified partners at Mastery Partners, where they help companies become more valuable and more transferable. So guys, how are y'all today?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Good,
Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. So let's get into this. So the question that was submitted on our website, and by the way, if you're listening and you have a question you'd like to hear a Mastery Partner answer, there's a button. Just click the button and submit your question, and maybe your question will be answered on our podcast soon. But this question is, my org chart is outdated and mostly in my head. I'm trying to scale. What should a scalable structure actually look like? And I think that's a great question, more common than most people want to admit. I think a lot of us have a version of this problem and don't even realize how much it's impacting our value. So when you guys sit down with a business owner and look at their org chart, what are the common problems you see?
I'm trying to think how to frame this because it's harsh. But if you're running your business, if the way that you're running your business is with what's in your head, you're doing it wrong. So that one of the first things you have to do is get things out of your head and into the thinking of other people and onto paper. Into the thinking of other people is cultural. On paper is process, or about processes. So the first thing I would encourage an owner to do with regard to the organization of the company is to get things out of his or her head and onto paper, and into the culture. The classic mistake that people make with org charts is, and I've seen this many, many times, is that they start with people. We have these people. We have this manager in operations. We have this manager in marketing. So we have to mold the organization chart to the people that we have in the company right now. And exactly the opposite is true. So where you want to start is with the functions that are the most essential or critical to the organization: finance, operations, sales, marketing, or sales and marketing together. Start with the functions and then fit people in your organization to them. Now, it may be that, and we've all, if you've read anything about this at all, any business books at all, you can go back for decades. You're very much aware that you may have, once you define the right seats, you may find that you don't have the people to fill them, and that creates a people problem, because you have to either find something else for the people who don't fit in the new model. You have to find something else for them to do, some other way to contribute to the organization. If you can't find a way for them to contribute to the organization, then you have a different issue on your hands. And I won't explore that anymore. But start with the role, and then go to the people, not the other way around. Once you have the roles defined, you want to very clearly indicate which responsibilities come with each role, and that is a process without the boundaries cannot be blurred. It can't be, well, some of that resides in sales and some of that resides in operations. You have to be very clear about the role and about what responsibilities, what are the top 4 or 5 responsibilities for the person who is leading that role. So I'm going to stop, because I could go on this subject for a long time, and I'm just going to stop.
No, we in another organization had 2 people that own the same thing, same responsibility, and so basically nobody owned it. Like that's what would come up every quarterly check-in or meeting is, oh, you were going to do that, I thought you were going to do that. So yeah.
I thought you were going to do it. No, I thought you were going to do it. Yeah. And nobody does it.
Nobody
That's like
does
2
it.
outfielders going after a ball that I saw from the Guardians the other day. It's just so avoidable. Just communicate to one another.
Yeah.
And the ball dropped and hit the grass, and it was two competent and well-paid athletes, and the ball hit the grass. So,
yeah, because they teach that since Little League. Call the ball. But yeah, Scott, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I would pick up on what Gil said. Functions endure, people don't. And yet we build our organizational structure around the people in an organizational chart. And those people will not be there forever. In fact, I'm working with a business right now in the roadmap of value acceleration. And the challenge that this business owner is having is that 2 key people have retired, and there was no prep for that sort of thing. And so you end up scrambling to find that caliber of person somewhere else. But when you have an org chart that is function based, function centric, then you're looking at what has to be done. What are the outcomes related to that box in the org chart? And then that allows you to say, how deep is the bench available to run that outcome, to make sure that key outcome is consistent. And if it's, and when we talk about bench, we're not just talking about the number of people, we're talking about the age of people. We're talking about the other things they're involved in. They may be the key person in 3 or 4 boxes in an org chart, and it's beginning to show. So the deep bench has timeline associated to it. Always be recruiting. Always be looking for the people that you will put in the right seats. But again, picking up what the brilliance of what Gil is sharing, functions endure. Over the long haul. People don't. People retire. We all get older, right? We don't stay the same. Functions can endure.
And people want to do different things sometimes.
That's true.
It's part of that. So if most art charts are broken or live in people's heads, what should a scalable one look like?
Without question, it should be documented.
Yeah.
And it should be documented based on what you want the company to be rather than what the company is. If you're satisfied with what the company is, none of the things that we're talking about are going to make sense to you. You have a vision for what you want your company to be. And just as all of your processes would be driven by what you want your company to be, your org chart should be driven accordingly also by how you see your company in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years for that matter, whatever it is.
And I think a good organizational chart can answer three questions. Who owns this outcome? Who decides? Right. And who does this escalate to? Right? It creates a speed of decision making that there's no confusion, there's no chaos, there's no second guessing. You may not like the fact that you are the buck, you're the person that the buck lands with, but you figure it out, right? The org chart forces that to happen. And I would like to say that a good org chart mood proofs decision making, where you're not so vulnerable to the mood or the circumstance that you're facing. You actually make the decisions according to the org chart. Now, that's assuming the org chart flows out of the purpose of the organization, the identity of the organization, because that's what it serves. The identity is served by the process, and the process has to reach back. And when you're doing that, then you're reaching your vision as an organization. So a good org chart will not only help a business do well in the moment, but also make it scalable.
Right, because if every decision has to go through to the top person, that's going to be limiting, and all the things that a business could become. I was also thinking about Scott. You were talking, or I've heard you talk about, kind of a punch out number, and my business is here, but I need it to be here so I can do the next chapter, the fourth quarter, how I want to do it. So is that just taking that org chart and like, for me to do this and these are the decisions I make, I just need to have, who could that fall to, what, or do I need another person? Do I need another box or role? I guess I keep thinking boxes as in an org chart, but like taking what Gil said about roles and accountability and who makes that decision. So if I'm a business owner and I'm making, hundreds of decisions, but I need to get rid of these 50 so that I can focus on moving the business forward. Like, how do you determine what those are? And is it another person? Is it elevating I guess it could be all those things. I don't know. I just would love to hear y'all's input on that.
Yeah, I think you start with holding some sort of a recording device, whether that's a little notebook in your pocket, if it's your phone, and you have an app that you always go to. As you're doing business, you make a list of all the things that you do, just as a course of business. Don't make it something you have to fit into what you think is an already busy schedule. Just make it routine, running routine. Start there, because you could do it one way that would probably make some of the listeners just cringe, and that is set a timer, a reoccurring alarm on your phone that goes off every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes, and all you do is record, what was I doing? When that alarm went off, what was I doing? And you do that for 2 weeks. That will give you a list of things that you're doing. Now, it's very intrusive, and not everybody is inclined to do that sort of thing, but if you need to, you go away for a block of time, couple hours, and you just do a mind dump of everything you can possibly think of. And if you need a creative person to bring it out of you, then you take them with you, and the two of you over coffee are just pumping out everything that you can possibly think of. Then you take one of those things and you say, where does this fit in the org chart? What is the personality most likely to succeed at this task? and then start building an onboarding of that person onto that task, assuming that you have vetted that item on the list and it still does need to be done, which may not be. You need to verify whether it's a key thing that must be done that right now only you can do.
So I've done that. I've done that exercise in 2021 when I did my TRA. And that was one of the things. I don't know what all I do. I do a lot of things. But you know what's funny is I have not done that since. So it sounds like it might need to be an annual thing and then update my org chart for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember working with a business owner once, and he actually did that 15-minute thing, and it was excruciating. But what we had were 4 categories and 4 columns. One was it must be done, like it's critical to the operations of the business. The second column was only I can do it. The third column was I'm good at it. And the fourth column was I like it. Now you had to focus on the first 2. If you had tasks that matched all 4, then you were a happy camper. But what I found in working with this business owner doing that, he realized that there was a lot in that second column. There were a lot of things that had to be done that only he could do. Now he carved out a lot of things that had to be done that he didn't have to do that he was doing. So, you move that over to somebody else who can do it because it has to be done, but the owner's not the only one who can do it. But he still had way many things on the list that matched the first 2 columns. Had to be done, and only I could do it. So then it became a discussion about what are you willing to let go of? Because you can't sustain this. So you've got to bring in maybe a super who, or train someone who's already on your payroll to begin to take some of those things that must be done that will now be only they can do. And that's this whole thing of making your business transferable requires courage. There's just no way around it. You can't just lackadaisically make your business transferable.
Right.
Not at all. And what you're talking about, Scott, not only is it not easy, and not only does it take courage, it also takes work. There is a natural amount of overlap in most businesses in some areas. For example, sales and marketing overlap in many areas. And it's really hard to separate those into blocks, what sales does and what marketing does into blocks, without considering overlap. Research and development is another area that there's a lot of overlap in other areas of the business. So I wouldn't suggest to a business owner that any of this is easy, but I would suggest that it's very necessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if a business owner was entrepreneurial and hard driving type A, what we're talking about is a shift in direction, a shift in focus. Still taking that entrepreneurial spirit, but applying it to the business and working on the business as opposed to in the business.
Yep.
There's a value methodology, the what's it called? The value builder system that where I read, they talk about the Rainmaker's dilemma. The founder who generated the flywheel going, and now it's running and everything, and now he or she is burning out. It's a dilemma because they're the ones that generated all this business and this volume, and they can't sustain it. So it's a dilemma. Well, they talk about moving from Rainmaker to architect. Same skill set, applied differently. You apply. It's not that you have to stop being who you are. Just take who you are and focus it on the business and not in the business. And that is very freeing for a lot of business owners. They think, well, I can still be who I am. Of course you can. Just apply it to the business itself, not what you're used to doing.
Okay, I like to dig down a little bit into that because this just happened today in a check-in meeting I was having something I really like to do is create presentations. I love the storytelling aspect. I love creating the visual. I love creating that whole experience. And that's not always the best use of my time, but I love it. It's one of my, like, if I could do anything, I would just do that all day. But that's not, also, that's not using all that I can bring to a company or, and so someone else did it, the presentation, because I wasn't able to. So they did it. And then they're like, can you just review that? And so I literally spent 10 minutes going through and just making comments, check, look at this. And then it's done, which is also a really nice feeling. It's not on my plate of things I need to try to figure out when to do. But Gil, that is so hard to let go of that. Do you have like a 3-step plan of see the vision? Like I would love that on a note card that says, hey, it's okay to let go. It's okay. Do you have anything like that, or Scott?
You're talking about psychology here. You're talking about therapy. You're not talking about business practice.
Well,
and that's perfectly okay. I just want to make sure we understand what we're discussing here.
Yeah,
so
sometimes
the doctor is in.
Sometimes it takes a 3x5 card. Sometimes it takes a 2x4.
I'm sure y'all have never had any business owners, and that's not you at all, where you had to actually let go of something. And I think part of it for me was every time I do that is there's a little endorphin of, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. But the sad side is like, oh, I don't get to do that anymore. But there's other things I get to do, which are much more fun. But yeah, do y'all have any examples or experiences of business owners who don't want to let go? Because that's part of this whole
my
business,
Lord.
right? Yeah. Do you have any success stories of how you got them to move closer?
Maybe 150 examples.
Okay.
Wow. It's overwhelming to even think about it.
Yeah, I know. I totally just put you on the spot there.
That's okay.
As well, but I was just thinking of our founder of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson. The example I have is he had similar to what Scott was saying, a whole list of things and across all 4 buckets that he had to do, didn't have to do, whatever. And we, as his team, kept saying, hey, you need a virtual assistant. You need someone to manage that. Oh no, I love managing my inbox. I love that personal touch. I love to hold on to that. And that way it helps me keep things organized. Well, he finally, I think it took 10 months of meeting, 10 months of, you really need to do this. You really, it was one of his goals. And I think it took 10 months. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. And he pushed the button, hired a virtual assistant. And now we're 7 months in. And he's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I got all this done before. So, and he has more clarity to focus on the things that will move the business forward. So sorry, Tom, I'm using you as an example, but that is a good example. Even someone like Tom, who's done this hundreds of times, you still get pulled into that complex, which I guess is more psychology, like Gil said, but it is a big part to me of business ownership of not holding on to those things that you don't need to hold on to. So I'll let y'all talk. I'm talking too much. So
not at all, Kim. I'll offer what I do with it personally, how I handle it personally, and that is that I always try to consider what's the upside and the downside of me continuing to do it, and what's the upside and the downside of me not continuing to do it or letting someone else do it. It just becomes a magic quadrant in my head that I try to run through when someone invades my domain, so to speak. So it's a perfectly natural phenomenon. But I'm sorry to say it again, but there's tons of psychology involved.
I would add a little bit to the discussion regarding identity. There's a difference between being responsible for something and or I'm sorry, owning something and being responsible. Without going into a lot of detail, we talk about the moonshine principle when it comes to personal planning and what are you going to do after you sell this business. The moonshine principle is not what most of you listening are thinking. It's not the distillery in the hollows of Kentucky or West Virginia or wherever else. It's more the moonlight dancing on the ocean on a moonlit night. The truth is, it's the sunlight dancing on the ocean, not the moon. The moon doesn't have any properties that give it the ability to emanate its own light. It just reflects the light of another source. So in the realm of our discussion, the business owner is the sun, and the role of business owner, the owner themselves is the sun, but their ownership is the moon. It's not a definition of who they are. It's a reflection of who they are. And you got to separate yourself from the role that you have. And the reason I mention all that is because I think a lot of the control issues and this is my domain, don't have anything to, don't mess with my domain. And the fact that they want to be the knight on the white horse coming in to save the day. There's a lot of gratification for a lot of business owners in that. But it's rooted, in my opinion, as a sociologist, not a psychologist, just keep that in mind. I think a lot of it's rooted in the fact that we feel like our identity is wrapped up in this business, and the outcomes, whether it succeeds or fails, is who we are, and so we hold tightly to it for fear that if somebody else does it, it's going to be a failure, and it's going to be reflected back on me as a person. But if we separate the person from the role and the business, see the business as a reflection of who we are, not a definition of who we are, we may loosen up a bit. And granted, you don't want to give, it's like you don't want to have your 3-year-old go across the road to get the mail out of the mailbox, right? You gradually give them increasing responsibilities over time. But I think we have to deal with what's inside of us with regard to organizational charts. Who knew we'd be talking about identity and organizational charts? But I think that's the root of a lot of the trouble the business owners face. And then they get to the age of 60, 65, 70, 72, and they've got this business that someone who has advised them that says it's worth 20% of what you think it's worth. And now they've got to scramble, right?
Yeah. I was working with a business owner, and they actually did a lot, and their org chart was very like 3 people, which it happens, but the 3 people were very siloed and did what they did, and there were a lot of things that the business owner did that that they had no idea what the business owner did, and no clue. Well, the business owner had some health issues, and so then like they couldn't do all the things that they need to do, or it took them 8 hours instead of 4 hours to do it because they just didn't have the endurance to want to do it. They had the desire to want to do it, but their body was like, no, you're not going to do that. And it really impacted the business. Well, then that burden fell to her children to try to come up and help take on some of these things instead of the employees, instead of a well thought out plan. And so now, I mean, the children are obviously helping, and it's not a burden, but it is like you're pulling pulling time from them, from their families and their, own lives and jobs and businesses of their own to come in and try to, keep this going until they're ready to exit. But I just thought about that with the org chart, and we haven't really talked about this, but the org chart gives clarity to the whole organization about who's doing what, right? Like about, oh, well, they're handling that, and if that's what I want to do someday, I'm going to go talk to them about it. And I'm also thinking of a bigger organization too with that, like, oh, these are all the possibilities of what this company does, and maybe I want to go be a project manager, or maybe I want to go do that. And it kind of ties into Gil's culture of what that org chart represents as a company, and then the plan. So do y'all have any thoughts or comments about that?
Was doing a small group small business owner, small group, last about a week ago. And one of the business owner has a number of products that they sell. It's a structure, building structures. And he said that there are several people on staff, and each of them is well versed on something. And he was lamenting about how to know how to handle a customer who comes in with one need, but the person who's responsible for that is not around. How do we deal with that? And one of the suggestions in that discussion was to have regular roundtable discussions with everybody who has an expertise in the business, and just simply share for 5 minutes what they do and a little bit about their expertise, to kind of cross-pollinate. Not that everybody needs to be an expert on everything, but they have a working knowledge combined with that organizational chart, so that anybody who is front facing with a customer or a client can say, I don't know the answer to that, but I know who to connect you with, and get that in. And then they own that, like whoever takes the call owns the call. So they go back a week later and say, did you get your question answered? But I think the roundtable of experts being able to share with one another from their particular domain of expertise helps to breathe life into an organizational chart, and does away with the siloed, I don't know what this other person does. And you take that. I mean, if there's any recipe for disaster, it's that.
You're right, Scott. You are correct.
Gil, you have anything else you would like to add?
No, that was elegant, Scott. I really that was well done, and I absolutely agree. There will always be, cross-pollination is a great way to describe it. There'll always be dependencies. Other areas of the business will have an impact on whether or not you can make your commitments. But that's what responsibility is all about, is driving through that for the good of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as we wrap up here, what's really landing for me in this conversation that this isn't really about the chart. The chart is the representation of what is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's all in your head, then that's a signal that you need to get it out of your head and plan ahead.
I'm doing a roadmap for value acceleration with a client right now. One of the tasks on their first 90 days of their roadmap is create org charts for the entire organization. And he heard that, the owner heard that, and he said, okay, we can do that. That shouldn't be any problem at all. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. It's more than just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
There's more work here involved than just saying this person does this and that. But you're right. It's so much more than just about the chart.
Yeah. And I know when y'all look at these charts, it's really determining if the business has the bones to grow and scale, and if there's value there, or if there's gaps in that value. And if the business runs and those decisions are made without everything flowing to just one person, that gives you a a good diagnostic to know how the company is really functioning and what needs to happen. And so if you're listening out there and if you're not sure whether your business has the bones to grow or where your gaps are in creating value and long-term transferability, that's exactly what the transition readiness assessment is designed to show you. It helps you answer these various questions that we're talking about, helps you see where your business is building value and where it is losing value, so you can make better decisions before it costs you when you're ready to hit that punch out button. So you can find that, connect with a partner and get started on your own. We call it TRA, Transition Readiness Assessment, at masterypartners.com. Gil and Scott are certified Mastery Partners today. Thank you. As always, this was an amazing conversation. And you guys have a way of making the complicated feel doable. I am really encouraged today. So many notes. Moonshine. I like that one because I immediately had the mason jar in my head.
That's right. Here's the moonshine.
Moonshine.
That'll get you through your transition.
That's right. Lots of moonshine. And to the business owner who sent us that question, man, that was a great question. I had no idea we were going to go into psychology, sociology, all the things there. But that just tells you how important a good org chart is to your business and how it functions. So thank you for sending that question in to us. The fact that you're asking the question means you're ready to fix it and wanting a better business. So if this hit home to you, please subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next and what question we'll answer next time. So until then, keep maximizing business value.
By listening to this podcast, you're already taking steps on the path of improving your business readiness. Nice work. Got a question? Well, we'd love to hear from you. Submit your questions at masterypartners.com and look for the red Business Owner Hotline button. And as you think about today's episode, remember, the decisions you make every day as a business owner are either building value in your company or quietly eroding it. So here's a question to take with you. What decision will you make tomorrow that builds value in your business? Now go get it done. At Mastery Partners, we're the people that make companies more valuable and more transferable. Our guides help business owners build companies that's ready for whatever comes next. And if you want to see where your business stands, visit masterypartners.com to learn more about the Transition Readiness Assessment. So until next time, keep maximizing business value